730 United States military helicopters, the largest rotary-wing combat formation in modern warfare history, assembled to eliminate what intelligence agencies classified as the most lucrative and dangerous criminal convoy ever to challenge North American airspace security. Not a squadron conducting surveillance, not a company providing support. An entire aerial armada of the world's most advanced attack helicopters, transport aircraft, and electronic warfare platforms converging on a target that had made the catastrophic mistake of believing ground-based wealth could purchase immunity from American air supremacy. The Sinaloa-Gulf Mega-Alliance had spent 4 years creating what they called El Tesoro Blindado, the armored treasure. A convoy of 287 vehicles stretching across 24 miles of Mexican highway, carrying $5 billion in pure narcotics, and protected by what criminal analysts recognized as the most sophisticated mobile defense network in trafficking history. This wasn't just drug transportation. It was mobile fortress warfare designed to establish permanent criminal dominance through overwhelming defensive firepower and anti-aircraft capabilities that could theoretically deny airspace to conventional law enforcement aviation. The convoy's defensive systems had been designed by former military specialists from 8 countries who understood modern air defense doctrine better than most legitimate armies. Shoulder-fired surface-to-air missiles created layered defensive zones extending 15 miles in every direction. Mobile radar installations provided early warning coverage that could detect aircraft at extreme ranges. Electronic warfare vehicles equipped with stolen military jamming systems could disrupt helicopter communications and navigation equipment. Anti-aircraft gun trucks mounting twin 23mm cannons were positioned throughout the convoy formation to provide sustained fire against low-flying aircraft. Technical vehicles carrying .50 caliber machine guns and rocket-propelled grenades created additional defensive layers. Even civilian-appearing cargo trucks concealed pop-up missile launchers that could engage helicopters with heat-seeking weapons acquired through black market arms dealers. But their most dangerous capability was coordination through encrypted communication networks that connected every defensive position into a unified air defense system. Real-time threat sharing, coordinated engagement protocols, and automated target handoff procedures created defensive effectiveness that exceeded many national air defense networks in scope and sophistication. The cartel believed their mobile fortress could challenge any aerial threat through superior defensive coordination and firepower density that would force even military aircraft to avoid confrontation rather than risk losses against their integrated defense network. They had successfully deterred Mexican military helicopters, forced civilian aircraft to alter flight paths, and intimidated law enforcement aviation with displays of anti-aircraft capability that had never been seriously challenged. They had never faced 730 American helicopters whose crews understood that some criminal threats could only be answered with the overwhelming violence of action that had made U.S. rotary-wing warfare supreme in every theater where freedom had been defended. The operation to destroy the convoy had been designated Sky Reaper Maximum, a name reflecting both the scale of aerial firepower and the absolute destruction that American helicopter doctrine would deliver against criminal organizations that dared threaten communities with military-grade defensive systems. AH-64E Apache Guardian attack helicopters armed with AGM-114 Hellfire missiles and M230 30mm chain guns capable of eliminating any armor the convoy possessed. UH-60M Blackhawk helicopters configured for air assault operations and combat search and rescue. CH-47F Chinook heavy lift helicopters carrying specialized demolition teams and intelligence gathering equipment. AH-1Z Viper attack helicopters equipped with advanced targeting systems and precision-guided rockets. MH-6M Little Bird helicopters for close reconnaissance and surgical strikes against high-value targets. MH-60M Stealth Hawks for electronic warfare and communication intercept operations. Even massive CH-53E Super Stallion helicopters carrying complete tactical operations centers that could coordinate the entire aerial armada through advanced command and control systems. But the true innovation lay in integration and coordination that exceeded anything previously attempted in multi-platform helicopter warfare. Each aircraft crew had been assigned specific targets based on months of intelligence analysis conducted by multiple agencies working in unprecedented cooperation. Primary targets, secondary targets, backup targets, and contingency targets. Every pilot knew exactly which convoy elements they would engage, in what sequence, and how their individual actions would coordinate with surrounding aircraft to achieve maximum destruction with minimum risk to American forces. The result was a battle plan treating the convoy not as individual vehicles or separate criminal elements, but as a single complex organism that would be systematically dismantled through coordinated aerial precision that would demonstrate why American helicopter warfare had never been defeated in any engagement throughout its history. At exactly 0542 hours, the Mexican desert sky erupted into coordinated aerial violence as 730 helicopters struck the convoy with precision that redefined rotary-wing warfare against sophisticated ground-based criminal organizations. The surprise was so complete that the convoy's advanced radar systems, surface-to-air missiles, and professionally trained air defense crews had no opportunity to implement engagement procedures before the sky filled with American aircraft attacking from every direction simultaneously with overwhelming firepower. The opening strikes came from Apache attack helicopters that had approached using terrain masking techniques and electronic countermeasures that rendered them invisible to convoy radar until they achieved optimal firing positions within Hellfire missile range. The first salvo of precision-guided missiles targeted the convoy's integrated air defense network. Command vehicles, radar installations, communication nodes, and surface-to-air missile launchers that form the backbone of their anti-aircraft capability. Convoy air defense positions arranged to create overlapping engagement zones against aerial threats were systematically eliminated in the opening 90 seconds as Hellfire missiles found every radar antenna, every missile launcher, every command post with surgical accuracy that left secondary explosions echoing across miles of desert as ammunition storage areas detonated in massive fireballs. But this was merely the prelude to a multi-wave helicopter assault that would be analyzed by military aviation schools worldwide as the definitive demonstration of American rotary-wing supremacy against sophisticated ground-based air defense systems operated by professionally trained personnel using advanced equipment. From multiple approach vectors calculated to maximize tactical surprise while minimizing exposure to remaining defensive systems, formations of attack helicopters swept across the convoy in coordinated strike patterns that demonstrated the fundamental difference between criminal air defense and professional military aviation doctrine refined through decades of combat experience. Apache gunships, their 30mm chain guns locked onto vehicle formations identified through thermal imaging and advanced targeting systems, opened sustained fire with armor-piercing rounds that could penetrate any protection the convoy possessed. The methodical destruction was overwhelming and systematic as each helicopter engaged predetermined targets in coordinated sequence that prevented the convoy from establishing effective defensive coordination or implementing counterattack procedures. The convoy's stolen air defense systems, formidable against conventional law enforcement aviation and effective in previous engagements with Mexican military aircraft, proved completely inadequate against American helicopter formations whose training, equipment, tactical coordination, and combat experience exceeded anything the criminal world could match or counter. One Convoy SA-18 surface-to-air missile system, operated by former Russian military specialists who understood advanced air defense procedures, managed to achieve target lock on 3 approaching Apache helicopters and fired heat-seeking missiles that should have been capable of engaging the aircraft under optimal engagement conditions. The missiles were defeated by advanced electronic countermeasures and expendable decoy systems, while the Apache crews simultaneously fired Hellfire missiles from different positions, their precision warheads arriving within seconds of each other. The first missile eliminated the tracking radar, blinding the launcher. The second struck the missile storage compartment, creating an explosion so intense that the entire vehicle's surface-to-air missile load detonated in a secondary blast that eliminated the crew and damaged 6 nearby convoy vehicles. Despite the overwhelming nature of the helicopter assault, convoy defenders weren't helpless victims. These were experienced military personnel who had received professional training in air defense procedures from elite international specialists and who understood surface-to-air warfare, electronic countermeasures, and coordinated defensive operations developed through decades of military evolution. Anti-aircraft gun trucks throughout the convoy attempted to establish suppressing fire against helicopter formations using radar-guided cannons and manually aimed weapon systems fired in coordinated salvos designed to force aircraft to alter attack patterns and disrupt their tactical coordination. Technical vehicles mounting heavy machine guns engaged helicopters with sustained automatic fire, while teams with shoulder-fired missiles attempted to acquire target locks on low-flying aircraft. Some defensive efforts achieved brief tactical success, demonstrating the convoy's sophisticated air defense planning, extensive military training, and professional leadership developed through years of investment in anti-aircraft capabilities. A Convoy ZU-23-2 anti-aircraft gun managed to damage one UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter with sustained cannon fire that penetrated the aircraft's armor plating and forced the crew to conduct emergency landing procedures, though both pilots survived and were rapidly extracted by combat search and rescue helicopters. Another tactical success occurred when coordinated shoulder-fired missile teams forced two Apache helicopters to abort their initial attack runs by maintaining multiple target locks that threatened the aircraft, buying precious time for other convoy elements to reposition and attempt more favorable defensive arrangements against the overwhelming aerial assault. But individual defensive victories and temporary tactical advantages proved meaningless against the coordinated firepower and professional competence of 730 helicopters whose crews had trained for exactly this type of engagement through years of realistic combat exercises and actual operational experience against sophisticated air defense systems in multiple theaters. For every helicopter that sustained damage, dozens more continued the assault with undiminished intensity and perfect coordination. The convoy's air defenses, regardless of their sophistication or the professional competence of their operators, were facing American rotary-wing formations whose tactical coordination, training standards, combat experience, and institutional aviation culture exceeded anything the criminal world could hope to match through superior equipment or individual excellence. Helicopter attack waves struck in precisely timed sequences designed to overwhelm remaining air defenses while maintaining continuous pressure that prevented convoy forces from implementing contingency plans or coordinating effective resistance that could prolong the engagement or threaten additional American aircraft. The systematic destruction continued with mechanical precision, demonstrating the fundamental difference between criminal air defense capabilities and American helicopter warfare doctrine developed through decades of professional military evolution and refined through constant training and actual combat experience against sophisticated enemies. As convoy communications networks collapsed under targeted strikes against command vehicles and electronic warfare assets, individual defensive positions found themselves isolated and unable to coordinate with surrounding units. Without centralized fire control and tactical coordination, the convoy's integrated air defense network fragmented into individual weapon systems that could be eliminated systematically by helicopter formations operating with perfect battlefield awareness and overwhelming tactical superiority. When the thunder of rotor blades finally began to subside and the last explosions faded across the Mexican desert, the transformation was absolute and devastating in its completeness. Where dawn had revealed the most lucrative criminal convoy in trafficking history moving with confident security across 24 miles of highway, sunset showed only twisted metal and burning ruins scattered across terrain resembling the aftermath of aerial warfare between military powers rather than law enforcement action against criminal organizations. 287 vehicles carrying $5 billion in pure narcotics and defended by over 1,200 fighters trained by international military specialists had been reduced to scrap metal and ash by a helicopter assault that redefined rotary-wing warfare superiority and demonstrated why American aviation had dominated every battlefield where it had been employed against sophisticated enemies. The desert floor was littered with remains of what had been the most advanced criminal air defense operation ever attempted. Surface-to-air missile systems reduced to twisted steel, Radar installations transformed into burning electronics, anti-aircraft guns scattered across miles of sand by helicopter crews who had systematically exploited every vulnerability in the convoy's defensive network. But for 730 helicopters, destroying vehicles and eliminating personnel was only the beginning of an operation designed to ensure the convoy's air defense capabilities could never be reconstructed, replicated, or studied by other criminal organizations seeking to duplicate their approach to challenging aviation supremacy. Specialized recovery helicopters deployed intelligence teams and demolition specialists across the battlefield to gather evidence that would support operations against criminal air defense networks for decades, while ensuring complete destruction of any equipment that could provide technical intelligence to future enemies. Every piece of air defense equipment was systematically analyzed for intelligence value before being destroyed through precisely applied thermite charges that melted sophisticated electronic components beyond any possibility of reconstruction or reverse engineering. Surface-to-air missile launchers were eliminated by explosives that destroyed guidance systems, tracking mechanisms, and launch platforms with scientific precision. Documents recovered from convoy command vehicles revealed criminal air defense ambitions extending far beyond protecting drug shipments into establishing permanent air denial zones that would have challenged governmental aviation authority throughout entire regions of North America. Communication equipment provided access to encrypted networks connecting criminal air defense specialists across multiple continents in previously unknown coordination that threatened international aviation security. The psychological impact of the convoy's annihilation rippled through criminal organizations worldwide, as communication networks carried news of the destruction to criminal leaders, who struggled to comprehend how their most advanced air defense capability had been eliminated by aerial forces whose coordination exceeded anything they had believed possible. The economic devastation was catastrophic beyond any previous criminal loss in trafficking history. The $5 billion in destroyed narcotics represented the largest seizure ever recorded. But the true damage lay in eliminating air defense capabilities that had required years to develop and billions to acquire through corruption and systematic infiltration of legitimate military supply networks. Recovery operations revealed the surgical precision of the helicopter assault despite its overwhelming scale. 730 aircraft had engaged nearly 300 targets using coordinated attacks requiring perfect timing and communication. Yet, environmental damage was minimal beyond what was necessary to eliminate the criminal threat completely. Other criminal organizations abandoned air defense projects immediately after analyzing the convoy's destruction through intelligence networks that carried detailed accounts to every corner of the criminal world. Surface-to-air missile acquisition programs were canceled as criminal leaders realized such capabilities would only attract overwhelming American aviation response. 730 helicopters had delivered an unmistakable message written in precision fire and coordinated destruction that would resonate through criminal organizations for generations. There is no air defense system too advanced, no anti-aircraft network too sophisticated, no criminal air denial capability too powerful to survive when it challenges American helicopter warfare and threatens communities protected by U.S. aviation supremacy. The convoy that was supposed to deny airspace to law enforcement had been eliminated permanently and completely. The mobile fortress that was supposed to establish air superiority had been crushed so thoroughly that future criminal organizations would abandon similar ambitions for decades. Understanding such capabilities would only attract aerial forces whose coordination and lethality exceeded anything the criminal world could comprehend or survive. The sky belongs to American military aviation, and those who challenge that supremacy face the devastating consequences of professional helicopter warfare operating with perfect coordination, overwhelming firepower, and the institutional competence that has made U.S. rotary-wing operations supreme on every battlefield where freedom has been defended.